Okay, let's get into this. We're looking at a name today that probably doesn't ring a bell, like Bundy or Gacy, but based on these files,
Yeah,
it really should. We're talking about Gerald Patrick Lewis.
it's a heavy one, for sure. Lewis was what criminologists would call an opportunistic predator. He was active across Georgia and Alabama, mostly in the 80s and 90s, and I think for this deep dive, we really need to trace his escalation.
The escalation, right.
Because if you look at the data, he didn't just start out as a killer. He evolved into one.
Yeah, I was looking at his early timeline. Born in 65. At first, it's just, a standard rap sheet, burglary, theft, weapons charges. But then, 1987, Massachusetts, that feels like a very dark turning point.
It absolutely was. He attempted to murder a 5-year-old girl.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such a critical data point because it shows the shift. He goes from property crimes to just extreme violence against the most vulnerable.
So the capacity for that brutality was already there, long before he was a quote-unquote serial killer.
Exactly. By the time he was in the South targeting women, his MO had become this nightmare of abduction, assault, and strangulation.
And the details in these reports are just gruesome. I mean, it wasn't just about the act of killing. The one mention about him trying to remove a fetus from a pregnant victim, that's a level of evil that is genuinely hard to process.
It speaks to a profound depravity. He primarily targeted young women, often sex workers, probably thinking they were lower risk.
That society wouldn't look for them as hard.
Right, he was counting on that anonymity to keep going, but that opportunistic part, it eventually failed him.
1998. Mobile, Alabama. How did it all finally come apart?
It was the murder of Kathleen Bracken. She was 32, found strangled and stabbed in a motel room. But this time, because of the location, there were witnesses. Someone saw a red pickup truck.
It's always the vehicle description that breaks these cases, isn't it?
So often.
Yeah.
That description led police right to Lewis, and once they had him, it was like the floodgates just opened. You didn't just confess to Bracken?
He started talking about others.
He led investigators into the woods to find the body of Misty McGugin. She was only 22, had vanished from a different motel months before.
But looking at these files, the Peggy Lynn Grimes case, that one seems even more complicated just because of the timeline.
That was the Georgia case. And you're right, she disappeared way back in 1993, 5 years before he was even caught. And she was 8 months pregnant.
Oh, wow.
Lewis eventually pled guilty to her murder and to feticide. It took them years, but her skeletal remains were finally identified through DNA with help from her mother.
But this is where it gets really haunting. The Bodine case.
This is the mystery that's never been solved. Not really. Lewis confessed to another murder from the early 90s at the Alamo Motel in Atlanta. He described choking her, stabbing her dozens of times.
But he didn't know her name.
He only knew her as Bodine. Or maybe Bodine, the spelling is unclear.
And did they ever find a body that could match that confession?
They did. In 2002, partial skeletal remains were found near the Fulton County Airport. The description, the time frame, it all lined up perfectly with what he said.
But she's still a Jane Doe.
To this day, her true identity is unconfirmed. A confession, a body, but no name.
That's terrifying. So he got death sentences in both Alabama and Georgia. Did he? Did he ever face execution?
He didn't know. The legal appeals process can take decades, but nature got there first. He was on death row in Alabama when he died of cancer, July 25, 2009.
So no final walk, just a quiet end to an incredibly violent life.
Exactly. And when you connect all the dots, Lewis's story is this terrible tragedy of escalation, from petty theft to a man who earned multiple death sentences. But it really leaves you with that final uncomfortable question about Bodine.
Right. The fact that we have her killer's confession, but we don't have her name.
It really forces you to ask, doesn't it? In all the archives of cold cases out there, how many other victims are still waiting to be named simply because they belong to a group that society back then chose to overlook?